And our third speaker, our distinguished guest, is Nadine Maenza, who is also a close friend, who just finished her term as the chairwoman of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. And congratulations, my friend, as the newly elected president of IRF Secretariat. So we're looking forward to working together. And by the way, Nadine had visited Taiwan, and that really, I think we count on your role in leading the defense.
So I'm actually here a little bit to talk about how prisoners of conscience can be, and I know that Bob uses this so well, can be both a gift to the movement, but also our advocacy for them can help them too. So it goes both ways. And I know that Ming Chi was supposed to be here. And I saw that your announcement that even though he had gotten a visa, the U.S. turned him away because he didn't have the right vaccine in prison. And so he was supposed to be here today. And I was going to talk a little bit about the advocacy for him. And so in February 2019, when I was a commissioner, and as you just heard, I just left the commission, so I'm not speaking on behalf of the commission today. But I had a chance to meet with his wife, Lee Ching Yu. Yes, and along with Anarima Bhargava and some of the professional staff. And I remember it being a very emotional meeting. I know you sent me a picture of us hugging. And as most of you know, Li Mingqing is a Taiwanese human rights advocate who was a prisoner of conscience. In March of 2017, he disappeared after traveling to China's Guangdong province from Baku to visit friends. 10 days later, it was confirmed that he was being held by the Chinese authorities. A spokesperson for the Chinese government said he was, quote, under investigation by the relevant authorities on suspicion of activities harmful to national security, and he ended up being sentenced to 5 years in prison on conviction of subverting state power. And of course, we all know he was an activist, so he committed no crimes other than advocating for a democracy, which we know is a crime in China. He was finally released in April 2022, so this was obviously very joyous. He spoke recently about his time in prison, and he said that they demanded that he would confess to being a spy, but he refused to do so. They told him he'd get out sooner if he did, because that they were going to swap spies, but he said that his quote is so beautiful: "Subversion is a personal act, while spying implicates the whole Taiwanese government, and I cannot betray my country." And so he was sent to Chijian prison in Hunan province. Initially, he worked 11 to 12 hours daily, year-round, except for a 4-day Lunar New Year break. He said food smelled rotten when it cooled, and he initially was without hot water in the Hunan's bitter winters. He also shared that Xishan prison, saying it was a total slavery sweatshop. The prison produced gloves, shoes, bags, and backpacks. His treatment, though, changed. And why did it change? Because advocacy became on his behalf. And we have seen this over and over again. And I know with the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, prisoners of conscience is such an important part of what we do. And I know it is with you too, Bob, and it touches me so much. And this is why it's so important, because it puts a human face to the suffering. Religious freedom violations can sound so like white collar, but then when you start talking about the suffering and what that means, and prisoners are oftentimes the ones that pay the biggest price. And I know that prisoners of conscience I've advocated for, they're so close to my heart. I have a hard time talking about them, actually. And so, I think that, what we've often heard is, that we're careful to only advocate for ones that can be advocated for. So it's safe to advocate for a prisoner of conscience that Bob or that USURF is talking about, because we know that it's the families alongside. I mean, there are people we advocate for, and there's someone I even negotiated a release of that never went public because there's some situations, as you know, that can't be talked about. But I think, it's really important because stories break through the barrage of information, and right now everyone has an information overload, but yet that story will grab you and helps people to understand. And so, as Katrina was so eloquently explaining, we need to tell the story. You just don't presume that members of Congress get it, and members of Congress they talk about information overload. It's like drinking water from a fire hose with their staffs. And so, and if you go to the House side, most of the staffers, they switch every 6 months. As soon as they get to know an issue, they're gone. So what I would say is your members of Congress, they really care about their own constituents. So meet with them in Washington, meet with them in the district office, get communities to meet with them, and tell stories. Don't just give them facts, because it just isn't as effective. The combination of the two is really the most helpful. The other thing I wanted to mention was this administration cares a lot about Congress. The past two administrations didn't like Congress so much, but this one, a lot of the successes I've had have been private letters from members of Congress to the president, things like that. It's been really interesting how powerful that is. So, having a member of Congress go speak to Blinken, having a member of Congress speak to the National Security Advisor, but most of all, don't presume that people in Congress are educated on this. That what we just heard today, the Taiwanese, if they heard about the Strait, that would be a brand new piece of information for most members of Congress. So that's a powerful piece of information. The economy, what would happen to the world economy if this happens. Yeah. Those are the kind of things. So I just want to encourage you that, we have the information here. I know you guys are already brilliant strategists and advocates, but it takes an army of people to really kind of move the needle on something this big. But the stakes are so high that it's really important that we do it. And I know the whole IRF committee would come alongside. So just wanted to encourage you to keep doing the advocacy. And I know we have families here, and my heart just breaks for those of you that have loved ones that are still being held. And just know you're in our thoughts and prayers, and we'll continue to advocate for them too.
So we have a very, maybe 5 minutes left, but I want to be also very blunt, ask some straightforward question. One question to Nadine now is, as Katrina just mentioned, dictator Xi Jinping is seriously preparing for war. Are we ready or willing to defend Taiwan?
That is a scary question, and I obviously can't speak for the Biden administration. We need to build the political will. We need pressure. We need cover, because a lot of times what happens is members of Congress couldn't give some cover to a president, like if he doesn't want to look like he's too aggressive, or he doesn't want to get into a foreign war or whatever. But if he's hearing from enough members of Congress they want him to do something, then that's going to give him some political cover, where he's going to feel like, I have more of my party supporting than I would have expected. And those are the kind of things that help bring that will to an administration to do the kind of things they need to do. So hearing from, important constituencies. I mean, you saw this with Trump, right? The Christian pastors would come with him with things, and because he knew that was an important constituency, he would move towards it. Biden's no different. So what constituencies are important to him? Have them go to him and say, this one matters. You need to be tougher right up front, and get some really good people putting the strategy. But so I don't know if the will's there, but there's a way we can build it. And we need to work together and think about how we can do that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We certainly, all of us, right, need to be prepared to help. And my second question to both of you, Dr. Yang and Pastor Huang, we have already been seeing what's happening in Ukraine and how residual and vital the Ukraine, the people, the citizens are defending their own country. Is our Taiwanese people ready, prepared, and willing to defend?
Actually, we have prepared from yesterday. 40 years ago, we already prepared for 40 years to tell the world we will fight for our freedom and democracy in Taiwan. Today, here, and I also, this morning, I listened to Lord Alton from
Lord
UK.
David Alton. Yeah.
The last word, very inspiring. He said, the whole world, when they're looking at the Ukraine problem and then looking at the Taiwan problem, not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. I had to warn all of the leaders in the world, because today I already sent out that message. The Taiwan Strait accounts for 50% of the world's high technology GDP of the world if cut off by mainland China. That would be a disaster for world economy. Would be a tsunami to the whole world. So I think, but most important things is Taiwanese. We have already thinking about, like Bobby today, I was asking him about how to operate American rifles, pistols. Right? He is an expert. And why I convey this information? Because I have a lot of friends in Taiwan. My friend Paul there. We always talking about this. Young men from Taiwan. We talking about we will fight with rifles when they invade. Anytime, just like Ukraine. Ukraine people they have already demonstrated how strong the civilian when they want to fight. You see that? Putin was so bad to see what happened in Ukraine. You know, Ukraine is so near to Russia. We are so far from China. So that's a lot of difference here. We already have our country to prepare a lot of weapons. Just now, we have our national security team here in DC talking to United States government. We will buy more weapons.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Pastor Huang, final word.
I think from 1996, the Presbyterian Church has changed for skill or technology to invite from Abilene to Taiwan. That is civil-based defense is a tool to prepare us to defend our enemies. So I think it's also used in the 2014, the sunflowers movement in Taiwan. In Taiwan Congress. So the students study the guide from the institutes, in instances, Gene Sharp, and from the guide to defense the police and the government. So I think we prepare this step by step, especially in Presbyterian Church. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's give another round of applause for our distinguished panelists.